In fact, we have Chuck Holton joining us now live from Israel, and I wanted to see if he's gotten a response to the developments here in the United States. Chuck, thanks so much for joining us. I know it's late over there in Israel. Thanks so much for joining us this evening.
Sure thing, Tony.
So the House now has a speaker, a solid speaker, and one of his final statements was to put our enemies on notice. Any response there in Israel that the United States, the Congress, is getting its house in order?
You know, this just happened, and so I don't think anybody over here is really even tracking that at this point. I don't think anybody here really cares. What they're more worried about is when is this ground operation going to start, and the complexities and intricacies of American politics just don't even register for most people here.
Well, from a standpoint of the support that's going to be, in fact, the first order of business was a resolution of support, and so soon we'll be seeing the material that in the financial support that Israel is looking for. But give us an update. I know there's been some frustration that the ground operation has not begun. What's happening there on the ground?
Yeah, I spent the day out with some special forces troops from the IDF, and they are training and training and training and overtraining. And they say that they feel like a bunch of meat eaters that are being fed a steady diet of cabbage at this point. But they realize that the politicians are the ones that are going to have the say in this. And they are just worried that the politicians are going to end up snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, as they are wont to do. But in this case, there is one very interesting tidbit that I heard today from them as they sort of speculated on why this operation would have been delayed so long. And one of the ideas they came up with is that since Hamas needs diesel fuel to run the generators that pump air into these tunnels, the 300 miles of tunnels underneath Gaza, they're sort of waiting for them to run out of fuel for the generators so that those tunnels will quickly become uninhabitable, and that'll force the Hamas operatives to the surface.
Chuck, we're up against a break. We got to go to a short break. Can you stick with us?
Sure.
All right, we're going to go to a quick break. We're going to come back. All right, joining us from the front lines in Israel is freelance war reporter Chuck Holton. Chuck, thanks so much for sticking around and for joining us tonight. So, as you said, you were out with the military today, and they think it's the politicians. But is there still some aspect of trying to identify where the hostages may be? Could that be delaying the ground operation?
I think that's a very reasonable assumption. There are several factors that have come up over and over again as people have speculated on why Israel has not gone ahead with this operation, because number one, they are talking with Qatar and Egypt and a little bit with the United States about these hostages and trying to get more of them released. The reality is that these guys go in on this ground operation, the chances of actually rescuing those hostages is very, very low. They still don't even know how many hostages they have. There are several hundred people that are still missing that they haven't been able to either identify as dead or taken yet. And so they're trying to work that all out. So that's one consideration. The other one is the fuel consideration. We've seen this trickle of aid coming in across the border at the Rafah Gate from Egypt, but none of that aid has been fuel, and there's a reason for that, because Hamas needs that fuel to run the fans that will pump air into those tunnels, and if they don't have it, then those tunnels quickly become unusable. So that's another reason right there. Another reason is what the United States is saying, that they need more time to get air defense capability up and running across the Middle East to protect American troops, because they know that as soon as this, or they believe that as soon as this operation takes place, that there are going to be attacks on American infrastructure, American military, all across all across the whole continent, the whole world even. And so they're getting prepared. They've already seen 24 troops that have been injured in the last several days by attacks on bases in Iraq. And so they're very concerned about that. They are also ramping up because they're saying that they have to have a plan in place to evacuate up to 600,000 American citizens who are in Israel at this point. And that would be a absolutely massive undertaking that all of a sudden the United States is sort of getting a little worried about, because that would kind of be a last resort. It's highly unlikely that Israel is going to get overrun here, but in the case that something like that did happen, they'd have to answer that question of what do you do with all those American citizens.
So, Chuck, what's the sense now? Iran threatened, preemptive actions if they go into Gaza, a week or so ago. Is there a sense that Iran will escalate? I mean, we've got Hezbollah up in the north. I mean, what's the situation been there? We're continuing to see rocket attacks?
In the north, we certainly are. Hezbollah has been making incursion attempts, rocket attacks, mortar attacks, machine gun and sniper attacks. They've been shooting towers with the ATGM rockets they've got. People forget that there's still 10,000 UN troops up there just across the border in Lebanon that are supposed to be there as a peacekeeping force. I'm not sure what they actually do, but they're not keeping the peace, that's for sure. Israel has evacuated everybody from within about 5 kilometers of the northern border and the southern border. And so that's almost 250,000 people that have been displaced now within Israel because of this fighting. And so nobody really knows, but talking with the troops here today, they really don't feel like Iran is actually going to get directly involved. They feel like Hamas is sort of expendable to everybody. They give them some money. You guys go and harass Israel, but they don't feel like Iran, because there's just Iran has far too much to lose. And after all, Israel does have 80-something nuclear warheads. So there's that.
Is there still the sense, last week we spoke, that Gaza was going to be cleaned out? Israel was not going to tolerate this continual harassment. Is that still the sense?
That is still the sense. I mean, you can hear the jets maybe going over right now. They have been constantly pounding Gaza, the northern part of Gaza, for almost 3 weeks now, and they've reduced much of Gaza City to rubble. There really won't be a whole lot left when Israel gets done with the northern part of Gaza, at least. And they don't, from what I'm told, from what the government is saying, they have no plans to occupy it or stay there. And I think maybe that's part of the reason why they're delaying as well, is that from a standing start 3 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, they've now got to come up with an operation that encompasses 500,000 troops. That's massive. And they've got to figure out what are the objectives here, and what does winning look like, and what's our end point? How do we know when we're done and it's time to leave?
All right, Chuck Holton, always great to see you, praying for your safety and well-being, and we certainly appreciate you joining us and keeping us up to date on what's happening in Israel.
My pleasure.